Hello everyone. Technology grows over time, and there is a general notion that the latest technology is always best for you. One such technology is using HTTP2. Well, lot of people would say that you should use HTTP2 as and when possible. But is it really that simple to use it wherever you can? So, in this video, I'm going to talk about something opposite to the general notion. Yes, I'm not saying that don't use HTTP2. Please use HTTP2 as much as possible because it will help you in many of the cases. But what I'm going to talk about is the challenges and what are the important things and the caveats you need to keep in mind when you use HTTP2 in your project. Hello everyone, my name is Anubhav and I post the technical videos every week on my YouTube channel. I have been doing so since last 1 year and it has been going pretty well. I have multiple playlists, for example, Apache Zookeeper, low-level programming, software development, databases, system design, etc. So do check out my channel if you want to learn more about the software engineering. It's all about being a better dev. Coming back to the topic now. Before going into the details, what I'm going to do is to just talk a little bit about the various protocols of HTTP. So there are three, in fact, there are more protocols. There is one called HTTP 3, but today I'm going to talk about only 1, 1.1 and 2. So the first protocol which came into existence was HTTP 1. That was a very short-lived protocol and it was there for very short duration. What used to happen is that, let's say there are two services and they want to communicate with each other. So what they will do is, first of all, they'll establish a TCP connection among themselves. So how does the TCP connection establish? There is a SYN, ACK, and then you give an ACK. So it's a three-way handshake that happens. Step 1, you have a three-way handshake between the two services. That's a TCP handshake. Then you send or receive the data and then you close the connection. That's how the HTTP 1 used to work. For each request and response, you used to create a connection, transfer the data, and then close the connection. But it was very inefficient because basically you were repeating the same work again and again and again. Then came HTTP 1.1 and it has been there for very long time. It was there for, I think, around 15 years or even more, and even today we are using it almost everywhere. So here they had the concept of keep alive header. So till the time both server and the client both keep the connection open and they honor the keep alive header, you can send and receive the data over the same connection. So what you do is you again establish a TCP connection between the two clients or the server. Then you send a request, get a response, you send more requests, you get more response, etc, etc, etc. And eventually when you are done with everything, you can close the connection. So it just helps you to avoid the extra effort of creating and closing the connection again and again. So this is how it was working, and it has been working just fine for all of us. In fact, today if you use your own project, most of the time you would be dealing with HTTP 1.1. But in 2016, Google built a new protocol and they called it HTTP 2. So what they did was that earlier in HTTP 1.1, you send a request from a client to a server. Then as a client, you wait for the responses. That, hey, I have sent my request. I'll wait for my responses. For the response, I get the response. Then I can send one more request. I'll get the data. So likewise, you can keep on making the requests. You keep on getting the responses. But what HTTP 2 said was that I can send multiple requests over the same connection at the same time, and so that I can use my connection better. So instead of just sending one request at a time for a connection, HTTP 2 said that I can send multiple requests at a time for a connection and I can get those responses, and I'll just have a map of which requests belong to which response. So that's what HTTP 2 did. And there was one extra thing. There are multiple extra things, but one more important thing they did was that they have something called as HTTP header compression. So basically, what they do is that they do not send the duplicated headers multiple times. So they deduplicate the headers. So that's how the HTTP 2 had a lot of advantages. And what I have done is that I have compared the HTTP 1.1 and 2. Practically, 1 is not even available for me to try. So I had a comparison between 1.1 and 2. And clearly, HTTP 2 wins everywhere. So let me just show you that code so that you have some idea around that. So I have this code with me on GitHub. I'll post the link. And I did my comparison on various methods of using HTTP 1 and HTTP 2. So when I use the simple Java client, I could see that there is a jump in the performance from around 7,400 millisecond to around 4,600 milliseconds. Likewise, I had a big jump in the performance when I use library. So a big jump in the performance overall you will have, and you can clone this repo and run the code. It's pretty straightforward to run the code. It's a Spring based project. And there were a few of the observation which I had was that most of the libraries still support HTTP 1.1. I had to search a lot to figure out what's going on and how do I try things overall. So yeah, that was about, the performance, and you can in fact try out the code. You can clone the code and you can run the Spring based project for yourself. Now I'll come to the main part. There are total 4 challenges you have when you try to adopt the HTTP 2. The first is that many of the libraries and many of the tools which you use, by default, they do not have HTTP 2. I'm not saying they do not support it, but you have to make a little bit of tweak to make it work. For example, if you have a curl command, you have to pass a separate parameter called as HTTP 2. So let me first open a Java-based project and show you the tweak number 1, and then we can talk about the tweaks one by one. So the first thing is, if you see my project, it's a Spring-based project. And what I have is a REST API, simple /hello REST API with me, nothing new here. And the first thing you need to do to support HTTP 2 in your Spring-based project is go here and make some changes. So that's a little bit of friction that it's not there by default. You have to go there and change it. So that's the first thing. Now, when you change it and the REST API starts to support it, you would need to call those endpoints from some of the services. Now, if you're using Java, so there are 2 options you can use to call these REST API. One is using the Java native API. So here what I have is that you import the Java libraries which are there by default. And here what you need to do is to pass a version, that whether you need to run on HTTP 1.1 or whether you want to run on HTTP 2. So you can do that by passing the HTTP version. And if you do not pass anything, again, it will consider 1.1 only. So if you want to use 2, then you have to specifically specify HTTP 2. Same goes for Apache client. So the Apache client as well, they do not support HTTP 2 if you are using the synchronous flow. So whenever you make a call, you can have a sync flow or async flow. For sync flow, they do not even support HTTP 2. For async flow, they do support HTTP 2. But again, you have to make some changes to make sure that the HTTP 2 is being used. By default, it is not there. So you have to make some changes to make it run. So I also want to show you that, let's say if I run my REST API. So if I launch my service which exposes the REST API. Now, if I want to call this REST API using curl, so what's the regular command? So the regular command which you would already be aware of is this curl and then the URL. If I do this, I'll get the response here. And here in my request, you can see in my logs that HTTP 1.1 is there. Now, if I specifically want to call HTTP 2, then what I need to do is that I need to go to my terminal and then call minus HTTP 2. The moment I do this, I still get the response. But in my server, I can see that now I'm being served using HTTP 2. So you can see that there are few changes, few tweaks you have to do to make things work. You can, of course, make things work, but that is something you need to be aware of when you use the particular technology. The second is the support for HTTP2 is still, it's a bit slow. So when I was trying my HTTP2 project, the project which I just now showed you, it was a little hard for me to find the right libraries and the right support. Even the Apache support came in around Feb 2020 to use the HTTP2 libraries. So it's still slow. It's not as good as HTTP 1.1, where you can use just search online, find the first link, go copy paste and work. It will not be as simple as that. Even when I was trying to use the Node.js project, I had to research a bit, let's say a bit more compared to the regular REST call which you can do from your browser. So you have to work a little more to get things done. It's still not much, but and definitely worth the effort. But that is something you need to be aware of, that not many of the libraries might be supporting this thing. The third is that if you want to test thing on local, so let's say I have a REST API with myself and I want to make the HTTP2 call. So I already have the API with me here. As you can see, I'm running the API here and that is running on HTTP2. Now, if I want to call this API from the browser, so I have already written JavaScript code, which I'll copy and then I will paste this code in my Chrome browser console so that you can see for yourself. Let's go to the browser console. And here, if I call the API, which I have already configured, you can see that I'm able to get the response. And in the network tab, what it has is the HTTP 1.1. Now, if I try to do that using console as well, so I already have a function written with me. It tries to upgrade to HTTP2. And now if I try to make the call from my browser, I'm able to get the response here. But in the network tab, I'm still getting HTTP 1.1. So the thing is, the reason for that is that I need to be on HTTPS if I want to use HTTP2. That's the constraint set up by the browser. It's not the constraint by the HTTP2 itself. That's the reason I'm able to make the call from the Java code, but not using the JavaScript code in the browser. So that's a browser constraint which is there. Now coming to the last part. The last challenge is that there is no Postman support for HTTP2. So the thing is, HTTP2 is awesome, but you would want to be able to debug it, right? So if you go to their public documentation and the public link, so if you go to this community post and people have asked, when are you going to support HTTP2? And they have said that it's in their roadmap and they have a feature planned. And if you go to their feature, you see that it's still open and they might support, but as of now, it's not there. So you have to work around and navigate your way to make things work. It is awesome, but you just have to be aware that there will be challenges when it comes to debug the code or debug on local and the tooling which you have. So yeah, these are the challenges which overall you will face, but it will definitely help you to gain the advantage. So what's the solution to all of these problems? One good solution to this problem is that if you are planning to use HTTP2, then move to gRPC. The reason is that gRPC has a great support in terms of community and the language, and it enforces HTTP2. And many places, gRPC is just easier to adopt. So the coding part would somehow be handled by gRPC. There are good debugging tool. Postman supports gRPC. So there also you are safe. On local, you can test using the Postman itself. You don't need a browser. So a lot of things you can do using gRPC, but still things are improving. The tooling is improving. This video was mostly about sharing the challenges which you would have when you use HTTP2 from 1.1. It should not happen that one fine day you get excited and see that advantages of HTTP are humongous and then switch to 2. Just be aware of the tooling and different factors, and then you can integrate with your project. That's all from my side for this video. Till the next time, bye.